Proenneke enlisted in the United States Navy the day after the attack on Pearl Harbor and served as a carpenter. He spent almost 2 years at Pearl Harbor and was later stationed in San Francisco waiting for a new ship assignment. After hiking on a mountain near San Francisco, he contracted rheumatic fever and was hospitalized at Norco Naval Hospital for 6 months. During his convalescence, the war ended and he was given a medical discharge from the Navy in 1945. According to one of his biographers and friend, Sam Keith, the illness was very revealing for Proenneke, who decided to devote the rest of his life to the strength and health of his body. Following his discharge from the Navy, Proenneke went to school to become a diesel mechanic. The combination of his high intelligence, adaptability, and strong work ethic helped him become a skilled technician. Though adept at his trade, Proenneke eventually yielded to his love of nature and moved to Oregon to work at a sheep ranch. He moved to Shuyak Island, Alaska, in 1950. For several years, he worked as a heavy equipment operator and repairman on the Naval Air Station at Kodiak. Proenneke spent the next several years working throughout Alaska as both a salmon fisherman and diesel technician. He worked for the Fish and Wildlife Service at King Salmon on the Alaska Peninsula. His skills as a technician were well known and sought after, and he was able to save for retirement. William Christian Proenneke, 1880 to 1972, served in World War I, and made his living as a house painter, carpenter and well driller. His mother, Laura, 1884 to 1966, was a homemaker and gardener. His parents married in December 1909 and had 3 daughters and 4 sons: Robert, Helen, Laureen, Richard, Dick, Florence, Paul, and Raymond, Jake. The year of Proenneke's birth is often given as 1917, but Social Security and Census records note Richard Louis Proenneke was born in Primrose, Harrison Township, Lee County, Iowa, on May 4, 1916. Proenneke completed primary school in Primrose, but left high school after 2 years because he did not enjoy it. Until 1939, he worked in proximity to Primrose driving tractors, working with farm equipment, and doing typical chores Iowa family farms required at the time. He also admired motorcycles and obtained a Harley-Davidson as a teen. Located at the northwest corner of North America, Alaska is the northernmost and westernmost state in the United States, but also has the most easterly longitude in the United States because the Aleutian Islands extend into the eastern hemisphere. Alaska is the only non-contiguous U.S. state on continental North America. About 500 miles, 800 kilometers, of British Columbia, Canada, separates Alaska from Washington. It is technically part of the continental U.S., but is not usually included in the colloquial use of the term. Alaska is not part of the contiguous U.S., often called the Lower 48. The capital city, Juneau, is situated on the mainland of the North American continent but is not connected by road to the rest of the North American highway system. The state is bordered by Canada's Yukon and British Columbia to the east, making it the only state to only border a Canadian territory. The Gulf of Alaska and the Pacific Ocean to the south and southwest, the Bering Sea, Bering Strait, and Chukchi Sea to the west, and the Arctic Ocean to the north. Alaska's territorial waters touch Russia's territorial waters in the Bering Strait, as the Russian Big Diomede Island and Alaskan Little Diomede Island are only 3 miles (4.8 kilometers) apart. Alaska has a longer coastline than all the other U.S. states combined. Alaska's size compared with the 48 contiguous states, ALBA's equal area conic projection, at 663,268 square miles, 1,717,856 kilometers in total area. Alaska is by far the largest state in the United States. Alaska is more than twice the size of the second largest U.S. state, Texas, and it is larger than the next 3 largest states, Texas, California, and Montana, combined. Alaska is the 7th largest subnational division in the world. If it was an independent nation, would be the 18th largest country in the world. Almost the same size as Iran. With its myriad islands, Alaska has nearly 34,000 miles, 55,000 kilometers, of tidal shoreline. The Aleutian Islands chain extends west from the southern tip of the Alaska Peninsula. Many active volcanoes are found in the Aleutians and in coastal regions. Unimak Island, for example, is home to Mount Shishelden, which is an occasionally smoldering volcano that rises to 10,000 feet, 3,000 meters, above the North Pacific. The chain of volcanoes extends to Mount Spur, west of Anchorage on the mainland. Geologists have identified Alaska as part of Wrangellia, a large region consisting of multiple states and Canadian provinces in the Pacific Northwest, which is actively undergoing continent building. One of the world's largest tides occurs in Turnagain Arm, just south of Anchorage, where tidal differences can be more than 35 feet, 10.7 meters. Alaska has more than 3 million lakes. Marshlands and wetland permafrost cover 188,320 square miles, 487,700 square kilometers, mostly in northern, western and southwest flatlands. Glacier ice covers about 28,957 square miles, 75,000 square kilometers, of Alaska. The Bering Glacier is the largest glacier in North America, covering 2,008 square miles, 5,200 kilometers alone. In 1999, at age 83, Proenneke left his cabin and moved to Hemet, California, where he lived the remainder of his life with his brother Raymond, Jake, Proenneke. He died of a stroke on April 20, 2003. At the age of 86, he willed his cabin to the National Park Service. and it remains a popular visitor attraction in the still remote Twin Lakes region of Lake Clark National Park. Sam Keith, who came to know Proenneke at the Kodiak Naval Station and went on numerous hunting and fishing trips with him, suggested that Proenneke's journals might be the basis for a good book. In 1973, Keith published the book One Man's Wilderness, an Alaskan Odyssey, based on Proenneke's journals and photography. Proenneke, however, alleged that Keith had changed some things to embellish the story, such as writing that Proenneke had assumed a role as king of bears and wielded power over them. After years in print, it was reissued in a new format in 1999, winning that year's National Outdoor Book Award, NOBA. A hardcover, commemorative edition, celebrating the 50th anniversary of the publication of One Man's Wilderness, was published by Alaska Northwest Books in 2013. In 2003, some of the copyrighted text from the book and some of Proenneke's film were used with permission in the documentary Alone in the Wilderness, which began appearing on U.S. public television. It follows Proenneke's life as he builds the cabin from the surrounding natural resources and includes his film footage and narration of wildlife, weather, and the natural scenery while he goes about his daily routine over the course of the winter months. In 2005, the National Park Service and the Alaska Natural History Association published more readings from One Man's Wilderness, another volume of Proenneke's journal entries. The book, edited by John Branson, a longtime Lake Clark National Park employee and friend of Proenneke, covers the years when the park was established. Proenneke had a very close relationship with the Park Service, assisting them in filming sensitive areas and notifying them if poachers were in the area. The early years, the journals of Richard L. Proenneke 1967–1973 was published by Alaska Geographic in 2010. As with more readings from One Man's Wilderness, the volume is edited by John Branson. This collection of journals covers Proenneke's first years at Twin Lakes, including the construction of his cabin and cache. The journal entries overlap those in Sam Keith's edited collection of some of Proenneke's journals, One Man's Wilderness, an Alaskan Odyssey. But unlike that book, in which Keith frequently modified Proenneke's writing style, the early years presents Proenneke's journals with minimal or no modification. In 2017, a Richard Proenneke Museum exhibit was opened at the Donaldson Public Library in Donaldson, Iowa, near Proenneke's hometown of Primrose. The exhibit features a replica of Proenneke's cabin, some of his writings, and other artifacts. In 2016 and 2018, respectively, A Life in Full Stride, the journals of Richard L. Proenneke 1981–1985 and Your Life Here is an Inspiration. The journals of Richard L. Proenneke 1986–1991 were published. In 2020, the fifth and final collection of Proenneke's journals, Reaching the End of the Trail, the journals of Richard L. Proenneke 1992–2000 was published. These three final collections were published by the Friends of Donaldson Public Library, the Richard Proenneke Museum, and were edited by John Branson. Alaska is the largest U.S. state by area, comprising more total area than the next three largest states of Texas, California and Montana combined, and is the seventh largest subnational division in the world. It is the third least populous and most sparsely populated U.S. state, but is, with a population of 736,081 as of 2020. The continent's most populous territory located mostly north of the 60th parallel, with more than quadruple the combined populations of northern Canada and Greenland. The state capital of Juneau is the second largest city in the United States by area. The former capital of Alaska, Sitka, is the largest U.S. city by area. The state's most populous city is Anchorage. Approximately half of Alaska's residents live within the Anchorage metropolitan area. Indigenous people have lived in Alaska for thousands of years, and it is widely believed that the region served as the entry point for the initial settlement of North America by way of the Bering Land Bridge. The Russian Empire was the first to actively colonize the area beginning in the 18th century, eventually establishing Russian America, which spanned most of the current state, and promoted and maintained a native Alaskan Creole population. The expense and logistical difficulty of maintaining this distant possession prompted its sale to the U.S. in 1867 for $7.2 million United States dollars, equivalent to $151 million in 2022. The area went through several administrative changes before becoming organized as a territory on May 11, 1912. It was admitted as the 49th state of the U.S. on January 3, 1959. Abundant natural resources have enabled Alaska, with one of the smallest state economies, to have one of the highest per capita incomes. With commercial fishing, and the extraction of natural gas and oil, dominating Alaska's economy. U.S. Armed Forces bases and tourism also contribute to the economy. More than half the state is federally owned land containing national forests, national parks, and wildlife refuges. It is among the most irreligious states. One of the first to legalize recreational marijuana, and is known for its libertarian-leaning political culture, generally supporting the Republican Party in national elections. The indigenous population of Alaska is proportionally the second highest of any U.S. state, at over 15%, after only Hawaii. Various indigenous languages are spoken, and Alaskan natives are influential in local and state politics.